Now, Rishi Sunak has been in charge since October, facing a whole heap of issues that this country needs to solve, whether that's the cost of living crisis, rising inflation, and now the biggest industrial strike action in decades. I'm asking, do you think for the short period that he's been PM, he has done a good job of leading the country? So joining me now is John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent and leader of the Reform UK Party, Richard Tice. OK, gentlemen. This is purely your opinion. This is your opinion piece. You're writing a comment leader in a newspaper. John Rentoul, how do you think Rishi Sunak has done so far in a short 8 weeks?
He's done about as well as can be expected. He's done better than anybody else could have done in that job. And he's certainly done better than the two main alternatives, who were Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. He hasn't been perfect. I think the way he's handled the nurses' strike has been a little difficult, but I think he, as he said when he gave evidence to that parliamentary committee on whenever it was now, Tuesday, he said he's only been there for 7 or 8 weeks, so you can't expect miracles.
Kind of, John, but I watched that super committee grilling that he got, and I thought that he used that as a little too much of an excuse. He was Chancellor of the Exchequer. He has been in that government for a very long time. So to kind of sit there, do you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me all the time of a boy that's just about to sit his 11 plus. And he's been hothoused to get into Winchester College, which is what he was. And he's kind of got a parent on either side saying, do better, do better. But he's very good at remembering rote learning, but nothing comes from the heart, John Rentoul, does it?
I don't agree with that at all. I think he's extremely competent. I think he's the best available Prime Minister at the moment.
That is a terrible indictment. That is, talk about damning with faint praise. He's the best you've got.
Well, that's how politics works, isn't it? He's the least bad option. I thought he was very impressive when he made that statement in the House of Commons on the asylum system. I thought a lot of Labour MPs stood up and asked him what they thought were awkward questions. And Richard Tice, he had the answers because he'd been doing the research.
Richard Tice, you're shaking your head in disgust. How do you think he's doing?
I don't know what Kool-Aid John Rentoul's been drinking this morning, but I want some of it because it's utterly extraordinary. There's more hope and vision and joy in your Christmas tree and the baubles, Bev, than there is with the visionless Prime Minister we've got at the moment. What a damning indictment that you say that this Prime Minister is the best of a bad lot. Look, he's been there 7 or 8 weeks. Where's the hope? Where's the vision? Where's the optimism as we move forward to a new year? Everybody I talk to of a certain age, they say this is far worse than the 1970s. And this has happened on his watch, both as Chancellor and now as Prime Minister. He's got no solutions. He's like a boring managing director of a subsidiary of a big multinational corporation.
The only time, I would say, the only time I've seen him get really excited was when he was talking at the Confederation of British Industry and he was trying to sell, OK? So he's a bit of a salesman when it comes to the financial world, because that's what he used to do, right? And he was talking about the future of artificial intelligence and how UK was going to be. And I thought, you're just a bit of a computer geek and you're really excited by the idea of a centralised banking digital system. You're probably quite excited about the idea of a technical ID system in the country. But what else does he have, John? I don't know what his values are.
Well, Richard doesn't like it because Richard's candidate, who was Liz Truss, crashed and burned because she.
My candidate? I'm from Reform UK. I'm not a Conservative, John. What are you talking about? You've lost the plot this morning.
You're in favour of this. You're in favour of this nonsense about borrowing to pay for tax cuts, which I'm afraid was utterly disastrous.
You mean growing the economy, John? It used to be known as growing the economy until we were taken over by a socialist government, it seems. Go on, Richard Tice, what were you about to say?
I'm in favour of growth. I'm the only one who's been talking about growing our way out of this crisis by cutting government waste, cutting daft old EU regulations, by cutting taxes for the lowest paid and the least well off. If you look at my plans on our website, it's all there, it's all funded. You've got to grow you out of your crisis. All we've got at the moment is two forms of socialism, red socialism, red socialism. And what we've got is we're colder, we're poorer, We know that our taxes are going up. There's no hope. There's no ambition. There's no vision. It's an absolute catastrophe for this great country of ours. We can do so much better. And that's why we need new leadership and a change of direction.
Go on, John.
Well, I mean that was lovely. We'd love to build pie in the sky and sandcastles in the air, but it's not possible. We have real problems to deal with, including the fact that we've just spent 400 billion on dealing with coronavirus, and that is going to make us poorer. Yes, anyone who doesn't accept that is going to struggle to come to terms with the real problems that this country faces.
But John, he was spending the money. It was Rishi Sunak that got us into this hole. He was the guy in the exchequer during COVID just dishing out left, right and centre for a virus with an infection fatality rate of less than 0.5% for the vast majority of the population. And now he's there telling us we've got to suck it up and, turn your lights down, turn your heating down.
I'm afraid, but no, Bev, the British people wanted that money to be spent. They wanted jobs to be protected. They wanted the furlough scheme, and they wanted the support for small businesses.
Well, I don't think they would have wanted that if they understood the
You
truth
disagree with the lockdown, but I'm afraid you're in a minority.
Well, that's because people were given the wrong information about how dangerous the coronavirus was. Most people have now had it, got out of bed and went, oh, you're right, it wasn't as fatal as the government were telling me it was going to be after all. I'm not saying that some people didn't lose their lives, they did, and that's awful and it's tragic.
It wasn't as fatal after the vaccines arrived, no.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. It wasn't as fatal after Omicron arrived. That's just not true. Go on, Richard Tice.
Look, we are where we are. Forget the past. How do we dig ourselves out of this hole? You can't tax your way out of a crisis. You've got to grow your way out of a crisis. And I say, there are numerous ways where you can save tens and tens of billions of pounds. The waste in the government is prolific. It's everywhere. You've got to cut taxes for the lowest paid small businesses, create growth, cut the waste, stop giving subsidies to renewable energy firms, about 11 billion quid that they say they don't need because they're now the cheapest form of energy. Get 2 million people who are currently on benefits back into work because we've got a labour shortage. That'll save you 20 to 30 billion quid. Cut the daft HS2. That'll save you 50 billion quid. All of a sudden, you're talking about real money, real growth, real jobs. All John wants to do is shake his socialist head.
Gentlemen,
I've got a Blairite head, if you don't mind.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your conversation. It's a bit like going to be a Christmas dinner in a few houses, that, isn't it? Thank you so much, John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent and leader of the Reform UK Party.